Hey guys, welcome back to another Path of Exile video, probably the last one before the full launch. So later today we're gonna have a bigger live stream, but in the meantime, there's a quick checklist of things that you should probably do before the early access begins. We have some new information from the developers, a big warning about the server status, and a few more things on top that you might want to also quickly verify. So let's jump right in. Also, quick announcement, the first two giveaway winners for early access keys have already been selected, so simply head over to the communities tab of the channel and check all the info over there. In the meantime, for everybody else, I have 5 more keys that I'm going to be giving away, both in the live stream later today once the servers go live, as well as in the next few days. So simply be subscribed to the channel and take part in that live stream for more information on how you can also win them. But in the meantime, since we talked about servers and whatnot, you may want to get ready for some long queues. And I'm gonna just say this, I enjoyed the transparency from the games director. They've pretty much came in about like 10 hours ago and said that, yeah, Path of Exile 2 already reached 1 million early access redemptions, which is absolutely insane. And this, pretty much took them by surprise too. And that they are doing their best to increase the server capacity so that everybody can get in. But at the same time, they also issued a huge warning that maybe there's gonna be long queues on day 1. Possibly even server disconnects, so do get mentally prepared for that. In the meantime, if you're waiting for any queues right now or at the title screen, you may want to know that it may not matter until at least a couple of hours before the servers go live. And the reason for that is because you're going to still need to apply a day 1 patch, maybe even multiple patches, which means you're going to have to exit and restart the client. So this was confirmed over on the main Discord server. The queues are inconsequential. Queues will even be reset after the patches are deployed before launch. So don't just leave your client open, actually just pay attention when it goes live, let it update, and then just start it and wait for the queue if that's going to happen. And on a final checklist note, also update your drivers. I know it's pretty self-explanatory, but there's a game-ready driver for Path of Exile 2, at least for the NVIDIA GeForce version. So go ahead and download that. It's bringing some improvements, and you can also avoid maybe some crashes. You really don't want those if indeed we are going to have any in-game queues. But with that out of the way, let's discuss some of the other class announcements, including one that pains me because it's been removed right before early access and we won't be getting it for a while, and that is the Bind Spectre, one of the skill gems for the Witch. This unfortunately won't be available, at least not in the beginning of the early access, because Grinding Gears discovered some problems with it and they weren't able to bug fix it in time. So this was announced, by the way, also on their main Discord. Now, for those of you who missed it, Bind Spectre is a very interesting ability that the Witch has. This lets you capture the spirit of enemies you defeated in combat, allowing you to summon them as your own permanent minions. So if you defeated a cool looking enemy, a non-boss elite or whatever, and you really want it in your army, you can then use this ability on its corpse and it will become your own permanent summonable minion. And it will behave like pretty much all other summonable permanent minions, as in you're going to have to reserve a portion of your spirit to have it in combat, usually quite significantly higher than your typical summons, because some of these minions can actually be very strong. But it could have been very useful because oftentimes you may fight elites or other similar enemies that may have very strong defenses or very strong attacks that may or may not be capable of carrying you, at least in the early stages. Plus, just the cool factor of being capable of just like getting your enemies to fight alongside you just sounds so very awesome. Plus, the enemy design in Path of Exile 2 looks really awesome, so I would have definitely enjoyed having one of these fightable minions then become my own ally in combat. But such is the case of early access. We're not gonna see it, at least not initially. However, the sooner we get it, the better, because I cannot wait to actually jump and play with a minion sort of necromancy witch. But on that note, I want to talk about some of the other announcements, specifically because the Ascendancies were covered a couple of days ago. So if you haven't checked the main website, go ahead and do so. Yeah, pretty much all of the skill nodes right here have been revealed, so you can better plan whichever one of them you want to first go to, because you cannot change, at least not from what we know of so far, you cannot change your Ascendancy once you have decided on one, at least not initially in the early access. So for that, you're going to have to recreate another character and do it again in case you want to test out the others. But for the time being, without like covering every single aspect of all of these ascendancies, I will just say that currently my main three options are between the Warrior Titan, the Witch Blood Mage, and I'm also like really leaning into the Mercenary Gemling Legionnaire. These three right here like just speak the most to me. And just to go over the Mercenary, for example, the Gemling Legionnaire looks very interesting. We have like +3 extra gem slots, which is absolutely huge. This pretty much bypasses two of the bigger restrictions that were made in Path of Exile 2. One of them is that you only have up to 9 skill slots, while Gemling Legionnaire has up to 12 because of the integrated efficiency. So that means more synergies, more abilities, maybe even more buffs, depending how you build these. And even more so, you have the gem studded, the 5th one. This is going to let you have 2 copies of the same support gem in different skills. By default, no other class has this. Every other class only gets 1 support gem per build, and that is basically it. So like imagine having extra projectiles for different skills, or extra like attack speed, or even like going with some extra defenses from a support gem. This can definitely help a ton in those situations, especially now that we know you only have one like chance when fighting at least some of the pinnacle bosses. Another one that really like kind of gets my attention, this has been discussed a lot in the past few days, is the Titan for the Warrior. So Titan has some very cool, interesting things going on for it. Besides the plethora of like huge stuns and shockwaves, I'm really liking the fact that you can increase the small passive skills. The hulking form just sounds so very overpowered, like 50% increase effect of small passive skills in your passive skill tree just sounds like something you're going to want to stack up eventually. You also have your colossal capacity, which increases inventory slots. This can help a ton on a first character to just have more items carryable by your character. That just sounds like a big plus to me. And especially so the crushing impact, all of your hits are crushing blows, and crushing blow basically causes heavy stun on enemies that are primed for stuns. So you can definitely create some interesting synergies over here, and I really like having that like barbarian, like maybe even going to dual handers in each hand. You do have that possibility, even though it's going to cost a ton in terms of attributes. I kind of am liking that. It reminds me a bit of Elden Ring from a different perspective. So this is another one that really smiles towards me. And another one that I also really like the looks of, like I said, is also that Witch. Not really necessarily going with the Witch initially, but the Blood Mage was the one I wanted to go with. You do have that spell Lifesteal with it from one of the abilities. Vitality Siphon, which can help quite a bit given how you're sacrificing your HP. Maybe even the Ranger Deadeye. Even in the first Path of Exile, Deadeye was like super strong, and I believe that like one of the metas right now in the current league in the first Path of Exile is also like Deadeye. There are a few variations of that are very strong. And here it does seem that you have a lot of really cool bonuses, like you have extra projectiles, you also have accuracy, you have the point blank, which is really good at damage. You have all of these damage abilities both in close range and for enemies further away. Also like that Hunter's Mark. There was a synergy that Grinding Gears talked about where you can have Hunter's Mark guarantee criticals, and guaranteed criticals can cast a lot of these arrow storms on the enemies and kind of have a ton of AoE effects happening all around. So it just sounds like all of these classes are something that we're eventually going to want to play with. I'm definitely going to play with all of the 12 of the Ascendancies, but like the first 3 or 4 I mentioned are going to definitely be the ones I'm going with. Anyway, that is about it with the video. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.